Hey, hi, hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Shannon. How you doing? Nice to meet you. I hope you're doing so very well. Today I am going to be doing a tag, which is the Imagine If tag. This was created by Emily Fox. I will leave the original video linked down below. This sounds so much fun. I had to take part. So, I can't remember which one I done it, which way I done it around. I think. Ooh. Throwing shit about, apparently. In this tag, you have a jar of authors and a jar of books. You pick one out of each jar and you say, imagine if this book was written by this author, and say why or how you think it would go, and that is essentially it. I'm excited to try this. I thought it was a very interesting idea, and yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna pick my first book, which is going to be, I'll actually pick both book and author in one go. So, imagine if Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas was written by Gillian Flynn, the author of like Gone Girl and Sharp Objects. Okay. Ooh. You know what? I think she could do it. Hear me out. So Gillian Flynn has a dark side and her thrillers are very dark. Punk 57 has a dark side. It is a bully romance. There is like certain things in there that are pretty dark. I don't know how Gillian Flynn would write romance. She would definitely get the bullying part down. And the chemistry could be, I think this could work. I don't think it would be the same result as Penelope Douglas gets, because Penelope Douglas knows what they're doing. But I do believe with the darkness that Gillian Flynn takes to her stories would fit really well with the darkness that Penelope Douglas has. I think that if I had more insight into how Gillian Flynn wrote romance, I would probably have a more like a better answer to this, but I think this would be doable. Yeah, I think Gillian Flynn and Punk 57 would go together. I don't think it would be the Punk 57 we know and love. I think it would be a lot darker. But I think it would be interesting. I do. I really do. Next we have Imagine If To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han was written by Angie Thomas. Ooh. Okay. I mean, that's a hard one. That's so hard, because I do think Angie Thomas could write To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I don't know if it would be as cute and as sweet as Jenny Han makes it, because Jenny Han has a way of making things really, like, just really cute and simplistic and sweet, whereas Angie Thomas is a bit more of a complex writer, and I do think Angie Thomas would bring the characters to life. I know no qualms about that. I just don't know if the softness would transfer, because I don't know. I just don't know. I think it would be an interesting mix of soft but also hard hitting mixed in with the soft. I just don't know, actually. I'm gonna say no for this one, just because To All the Boys I've Loved Before is a vibe. It's a very much Jenny Han vibe. It's a very cutesy, sweet, romantic vibe, whereas I think of Angie Thomas as a more complex, hard-hitting, like, just in general, more of a harder read, if that makes any sense. I just don't think the crossover would work. I love both of these authors and I love both of their works respectively. Like, I just don't know if their type of writing would cross over into each other's genre. I don't think Jenny Han could write Angie Thomas's work, and I don't think Angie Thomas could write Jenny Han's work. So I'm going to say no to this one. Next we have Imagine If. Ooh. Imagine If. Why can I folded these post-it notes really well. Imagine If House of Earth and Blood, oof, one of my favourite books, was written, oh, look at that. Imagine If House of Earth and Blood was written by Sarah J. Maas. See, it's just meant to be. No one else could write House of Earth and Blood the way Sarah J. Maas can write House of Earth and Blood. Yes, because it's literally my favourite book, and this makes so much sense, like, obviously. This was meant to be, because no one else can write House of Earth and Blood like Sarah J. Maas, and this was just fate. Next we have Imagine If I could get into post-it notes without an issue. Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco was written by Ashley Heron Blake. No. No. I'm going to say no to that one. Just, Ashley Heron Blake wrote the Girl Made of Stars. Jesus. Ashley Heron Blake wrote The Girl Made of Stars and Delilah Green Doesn't Care, and I just think their genre is contemporary. I haven't read anything from them that isn't contemporary. Do I think they could create characters like in the Kingdom of the Wicked? 100%. I just don't think the genre crossover would work. And I think that it's two very different writers doing two very different genres. I'm gonna say no to this one also, because I just can't see it. Also, Girl Made of Stars was like one of my favorite books, is one of my favorite books. So like, again, I've enjoyed these separately, and I can't see it. This is a lot harder than I thought it would be, because like you have to think about the author's work. Imagine If Monday's Not Coming, written by Tiffany D. Jackson, was written by Colleen Hoover. Okay. So I'm gonna say yes, with the caveat that Monday's Not Coming is amazing, and it shouldn't ever be written by any other author than Tiffany D. Jackson, because this book hurt my heart, guys. Like, read this when you're alone. I listened to this on audio while at work, and the last hour of this book, my heart was just pumping away. I was crying. I was like, oh, please, none of my colleagues come around at the moment. This book is a throat punch, and I do think Colleen Hoover could write something like this. I don't think it's so hard, because this Monday's Not Coming is POC rep, and having a white author write something like this would just not work for me. I think this impact is just absolutely amazing. But yeah, like, I think if Colleen Hoover wrote this, it would follow a white protagonist. It would still have the same devastating effect, because Colleen Hoover can do that. It just wouldn't be Monday's Not Coming. Like, I do think she could write this story. It just wouldn't be the story that Tiffany D. Jackson wrote, and it wouldn't have the impact that it does, having been written by a person of colour. And I do think it could be done by Colleen Hoover, but I just don't think it would have the impact that Monday's Not Coming does have. I highly recommend Monday's Not Coming. I bawled like a baby. I also highly recommend It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, because I also bawled like a baby. Not as hard, but like, these books are 2 5 stars, 2 favourites. I just love both of these, and yeah, this was a hard one. Quite a hard one, yeah. But again, it's it's just about thinking it through. And I do think Colleen Hoover could write something hard-hitting like this. Because of the diverse rep in Monday's Not Coming, it just adds that extra layer of, yes, she could write something like this, but it wouldn't have the voice that it does with Tiffany D. Jackson. Next, imagine if The Cousins, a 2-star one of the worst books I read last year, by Karen McManus, was written by Anna Todd. Yes, this would work. I haven't had the best of luck with Karen McManus, and I understand why people love the After series, but it's just toxic as fuck. But yes, I think Anna Todd could write The Cousins, because they're both YA writers and they're both quite simplistic writers, and I'm not saying that as like an insult or anything. I'm just saying their genres are very narrowed down. Anna Todd writes romance and Karen M. McManus writes crime thriller. I do think Anna Todd would be able to write The Cousins simply because she's good at writing toxic characters, and The Cousin has a bunch of them. And I think the thriller is very weak. The mystery is not so weak, so it's more of a mystery to me. And I think Anna Todd could easily write a bunch of toxic characters in a mystery story. Yeah, I think this works. Yeah, I don't know if it would be any better than it was when I first read it, but it works. And the last one I'm going to do is imagine if Home Before Dark by Riley Sager was written, one of my favorite Riley Sagers I've read, by Tiffany D. Jackson. Yep. Yeah, I could definitely see this. Like, Tiffany D. Jackson writes mystery thrillers, and they're YA, but they're so hard hitting that some of them I'm like, even though they're YA, they read adult. Riley Sager writes crime mystery thrillers adult. I do think that if Tiffany D. Jackson wrote Home Before Dark, there would be like a more emotional element to it. I think that Tiffany D. Jackson's really good at writing emotion, and I think it would have a more emotional impact. I loved Home Before Dark. I gave it 5 stars, and I do think that Tiffany D. Jackson could do this story well, considering they both write in very similar genres, just that their age range is slightly different. So I do think that Home Before Dark would be written very well by Tiffany D. Jackson, and I do think it would have a more emotional impact. But Home Before Dark was a 5 stars, so like it doesn't need to be rewritten, but it would be interesting to see how Tiffany D. Jackson would take on this story, because it would be very interesting to see this. And Tiffany D. Jackson is now taking out some like horror books, White Smoke, and the one coming out later this year is The Weight of Blood. So I think now that like she's edging into horror, like Home Before Dark would like be a good story to edge into horror with. Yeah, I think this works for me. And that is it. That is my thoughts on some of Imagine If this book was written by this author titles. Very hard. Like, you've got to think things through a little bit more, but I had fun and I plan on doing this again. Let me know in the comments what you think about the pair-ups, if you think they would go well together, why they would go well together, or if you don't. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if any of them are your favorite. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to stay safe, happy and healthy, and I will see you next time. Bye. Pick it up from the